We technically had a one-bedroom apartment. Yeah, this is just kind of how unique Mike is. He slept on the couch. I actually had the bedroom. For the first month or two, we slept on air mattresses.
I was talking to my wife about it last night. I feel like 18 to 24-year-olds, men especially, are like susceptible to like putting bad shit in their body. They get so into like the Instagram people that get jacked in 2 months.
It's kind of just always reinforced with our kids. It's just like, no entitlements. There's no handouts. Like, you have to go earn stuff. It's not, oh, you know, mom and dad have X, Y, and Z. It's like, it doesn't matter.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Business. Today we have a very special guest from RP Strength, the founder, Nick Shaw. As always, I'm going to do a quick intro here on Nick's background. So Nick Shaw is the founder and CEO of RP Strength, a former competitive bodybuilder and IFBB pro. Under his leadership, RP Strength has grown from a small coaching business into a highly respected name in the fitness industry, known for its science-backed approach in training and nutrition. He co-hosts the RP Strength podcast along Dr. Mike Israetel and is the author of the book Fit for Success, which he explores the mindset and habits necessary to achieve long-term success. Drawing on his extensive experience, Nick has personally coached numerous world-class athletes, including CrossFit Games champions, international medalist Olympians, UFC fighters, professional athletes, and Navy SEALs. His dedication to delivering evidence-based strategies has helped thousands of clients optimize their nutrition and performance. Nick also earned a BA in sports management from the University of Michigan, where he established a scholarship undergraduate kinesiology students and was honored with the Early Career Achievement Award. He currently resides in Charlotte, North Carolina with his wife, Lori, and their 2 kids. Great bio, man. Happy to have you.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. Good to be here.
I want to start, Nick. This is beyond the business, so we're going to dive really deep into your personal life before, like, what got you to building up to where you are today, and also we're going to talk about where you're going. But I want to let's dive into your childhood now. Let's start early on.
Yeah, so I grew up in rural Michigan, a town of like 2,000 people called Bronson, Michigan. So I'm the youngest of 3 kids. I have an older sister and an older brother, and kind of always just grew up playing sports, watching sports. So I was always into sports, and my brother was 4 years older than me. So he was in high school. I got to watch him train for, high school sports. And so he was training with weights. I was pretty interested in that because, if you have an older brother, he's doing something. Like, we had some old like rickety weights in my parents' basement. Those old like sand-filled ones?
Yeah.
Like a little skinny bench.
We had those too, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Those gray ones.
So that's just, I don't know how I kind of grew up in very, middle class kind of just hardworking parents.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of all I ever knew growing up was sports and fitness and lifting weights, and just got really into it, and I caught the bug early on, just lifting. I wanted to do something fitness related. What
in a town in Michigan, rural Michigan with 2,000 people, what does everyone do there, like industry wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's some farming, some Amish around, I suppose, in the surrounding area. My dad worked in like tool and die. My mom kind of did a bunch of stuff, but was mostly in my high school. She was like a waitress. Got it.
And what you said your childhood revolved around weightlifting and sports. Talk about the sports side a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up playing basketball, baseball primarily. Funny enough, my dad was huge into baseball. It was my least favorite sport. So I remember when I told him I wasn't going to play, he was pretty disappointed. Like after Little League, I was like, that's just not my thing. Yeah. And funny enough, how I got into, my main sport in high school was running. So I was a cross country. I was a distance runner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which most people are like, oh, that doesn't really kind of.
How heavy were you running like that?
I graduated high school at probably like 165.
Okay, so you're light.
Yeah. I was.
And what are you now? Just for perspective for everyone.
210.
210, okay.
So, a little bit heavy. But that being said, I was always, when I was running distance, I was probably, let's call it 160. Most of those other kids were 130, 140 because, I was also really into lifting.
Lifting, yeah.
And, not too many cross country runners can bench press 225. So like here I am, kind of like this tank, relatively speaking to, high school kids that are
Right.
running. But, I wasn't great at distance running and I wasn't a great sprinter. But how I sort of approached it was, I was like, what are the worst events in track? And everyone's like, I usually like the 400 and 800, like the mid distance. And I was like, sign me up for that. I'm not really talented. I can't do field events. I can't do any of that. But I was like, yeah, give me the stuff that no one else wants, like the worst stuff. I was like, yeah, I'll take that.
So you did 400 and 800.
Yeah, those are probably my two better events. 800 my senior year was probably my best one.
And you said you have a brother 4 years older, correct? Yep. What's your relationship with him growing up? Like what'd that look? 4 years is a good amount. I have a brother 5 years older. Like what'd that look like for you?
Yeah. It was just, he was pretty good at sports. So it was cool kind of watching him do well. And it was like one of those inspiration things of like, oh yeah, I'd like to be good at sports too. Cause my older brother is pretty good. And he's the one that, got me into lifting it when I probably started lifting when I was 13.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So just, you have an older brother who's bigger, stronger than you. And of course, would always tease me, beat me up a little bit, not in like a bad way, but just a normal brother relationship. You just want to do well. You want to try to emulate the people around you.
Are you still close with him?
So he lives in Michigan. So my sister lives down in Charlotte, so probably a little closer with her just because she lives sort of nearby.
And what's the age difference with your sister again?
7 years older.
Okay. So you're youngest.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. And any of your family members involved with your business now?
No.
Just you.
Yeah.
We'll get into more of that stuff later. But what being in a small town, both your parents work, sound like your dad, like industrial type of work, things like that, very small town. What was your relationship like with your parents?
So, my mom was just one of those people who would, just do anything for her kids sort of whenever. She's actually watching my kids right now as I'm down here.
There you go.
So yeah, she's there with them. She comes down all the time, helps out. My dad worked like second shift when I was in high school. So, he wasn't, my mom would be at every single sporting event. My dad would too, whenever he could, but he worked second shift. So didn't get to come to him quite as often. But I will say, I always like to say my dad is probably, in my opinion, right? Everyone's going to have their own perspective. One of the hardest working people I've ever, met, been around. And so that was just sort of, I don't know, like the standard, right? You just see your parents doing things. You're just like, oh, this is just how people should be and operate. And, obviously later on you find out that's certainly not the case. Not everyone's like that. But that's probably a little bit of perspective there.
And kind of questions that just came to my mind, like what you seem like you're very hard. To be a bodybuilder, you have to be extremely hardworking, disciplined, and consistent, right? Is that what you kind of picked up from your dad, it sounds like?
I would say personality-wise, I have my dad's personality. In terms of interests, I probably have like my mom's interests. Because my dad, I would say hunting and fishing are probably his two favorite things in life. Baseball's maybe 3, although, it's probably just him playing it growing up. And if you probably had to list my 3 least favorite things, it would probably be hunting, fishing, and baseball. So,
all old people like baseball, man. My dad's the same way.
Yeah. So yeah, it's something like that. But my dad kind of has the personality where if you're going to do something, it's kind of you go all in. And I guess I didn't channel that into baseball like you probably would have liked, but I channeled it into something else, which ended up being running, which got me into fitness, working out, and led to probably a decent end outcome here, I would say, with RP. So not too bad.
Working up. And what, like how would you describe yourself in high school, like that area? What you said you're into running and track and sports and lifting. Like what was your personal life like?
So I was the type of kid that if I had friends partying or doing anything like that, I would be the kid at home working out. There was a track coach in high school, my junior year, who described me as a gym rat, and I took it as a personal compliment. I was like, hell yeah. Because again, like how I viewed it was, I'm not the most gifted from an athletic standpoint. So the only way I can keep up with other folks is to outwork them.
Yeah.
And that was just always my mindset. Because I was like, that's what I have. That's what I can bring to the table. So I'm going to lean into that.
And you're obviously good academically if you went to Michigan, I assume.
I was pretty good. I was maybe not quite 4.0 student, but probably 3.9, something like that.
Did you have to work hard for that too?
No,
Yeah.
no, I didn't. My sister had to work pretty hard. My brother did not either. He was pretty just like gifted when it came to that. I would do the bare minimum. Usually do pretty well on tests and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I also knew from a pretty early age, I'm not sure where I got this from, maybe from an uncle, but I didn't really know him. He passed away when I was really young. He was a huge Michigan sports fan. I guess that's where I got it from. But basically when I got into high school, I was just like, I knew I wanted to go to Michigan. It was really the only place that I wanted to go. And so it was just basically a goal of mine. I was like, well, I know I just have to do good in school if I
Right.
have a chance to go there. And so that was always part of it. And then I actually was like, well, I might get in, I might not. So I actually went and met with a U.S. House of Representatives who was from Battle Creek. He was, I think, the president of the Alumni Association at Michigan. And I went and did like a personal interview, and I was basically like, what do I have to do to get into Michigan? And I basically explained like my love, my passion for Michigan. It was in National Honor Society, Student Council, had pretty good grades, all that. My test scores were not Michigan standard, probably a little bit below it, but I think sort of all the other things added up. And he was like, it was probably a bit of a risk for him to sort of recommend me. But after I met with him, a couple of weeks later, I got my acceptance letter in the mail.
Nice.
Like early fall of senior year, which is wild. Like usually no one gets accepted that early. So, shout out to him, took a little chance on me. And I think I've probably done the University of Michigan fairly well.
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like you're doing well. So what about like your first jobs? Did you work in high school?
Oh yeah, always worked.
You always worked?
Always. From probably the time I was about 13 or 14. First job I probably ever had was, so there is a snowmobile auction thing like around my hometown.
Sounds like a Michigan thing.
Yeah, right. They would have forklifts, I think, pick up the snowmobiles. They would put them on these trailers, and then I had to drag the trailer sort of in to where they would do the bidding, pull it back out when it was done bidding on, and then like the four-wheelers or whatever would come back to it and get them. And I don't know, maybe made like $8 an hour or something like that. Like it's a once a month kind of thing. That was my first job. I worked at an ice cream like scooping place. I think that was my first real job. Probably again making like $8. But we weren't well off financially. Right. So it was like you have to work.
Got to work. Yeah.
To pay for stuff. There's no other way around it. So always grew up, and hopefully my kids will have that same mindset, because my kids will have quite a different upbringing than I had in terms of living in a more affluent neighborhood and all that. So it's something that I always think about is like, well, my kids are going to have that same sort of like, you have to have a job. So
yeah, you mentioned you want your kids to be raised, working, instilling hard work in them. That's hard to do, especially once you see success and have all the money and it's not a problem. What's your plan for that? And how old are your kids too, by the way? My son just turned 13. My daughter's 10. My plan for that, it's just something that my wife and I always think about, because we both, she's from Southern Ohio, so we both grew up like, lower middle class, rural Midwest. So we just kind of have that hard, work ethic. Her dad was a construction worker. Where in Ohio?
Like about an hour south of Columbus.
Got it.
A small town, I think Jackson, Ohio. But it's just something. It's kind of just always reinforced with our kids. It's just like there's no entitlements. There's no handouts. Like you have to go earn stuff. It's not mom and dad have X, Y, and Z. It's like that doesn't matter.
Right. Got to work for it.
I forget which kind of like famous personality said something. Is Kevin O'Leary, maybe that's who it was. He said something along the lines of like, his son asked, Dad, do we have a bunch of money or something? He's like, well, I do, don't. I don't know if I would phrase it quite like that, but just sort of reinforcing that of like, you have to go out and work. Like you have to earn stuff. You can't like, there's not just going to be handouts. There's not just going to be free stuff given to you.
That's hard for people with money, like for kids growing up with money, like to instill that for sure. And just making them work, making them earn things, not like feeling like you can quote, not spoiling them. Like it's what strategies do you use? I'm sure people listening can be like, okay, this makes sense. What strategies do you use for that?
There's like a couple books out there there's one, I heard this guy on a podcast. I think he was on like Lewis House podcast. I think it's called like Dinner Table or something like that. But it's really all about that. And I think it's just, you have to model it yourself a little bit. And man, I don't know. I don't think I have the right answers or the perfect answers for that, but it's just something that I'm super conscious and aware of like all the time. And my wife and I sort of always think about it.
Yeah.
What do you think? There's that saying that you hear sometimes. It's like the second generation of money keeps it and the third generation loses it. And that's because the first generation built it. The second generation saw them and instilled that hard work in them. And then the third generation loses it. What do you think about that in general? I've heard that quote many times.
I think there's probably something to that. My kids grow up and have kids of their own. It'll be something that I always harp on them as well. I've read a book. I forget what it's called, but it's all about the Vanderbilts and how they went from like the richest people in the world to like 50 years later, something like that. They were basically all broke.
Yeah.
So it's just instilling. It's just like you don't frivolously spend on stuff. Like you always have to save and invest. So my son just had a birthday and he got a bunch of money, and it's like, all right, so you got to take at least 10% of that and like save it. 10%. Pick a charity. Pick something that it'll probably be local, I'm sure. But like you have to do that. You can't just go out and spend it. And so there's a couple years ago where he wanted a Nintendo Switch. I was like, I'm not going to buy it for you. So he had to save up for like probably at least 1 or 2 birthdays and like a Christmas in there. But he did. He went and bought it, right? And so hopefully he's now going to treat it a lot better than if I just give it to him.
True.
And then he just starts throwing it around because it doesn't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
Unless you had to work hard.
You'll
for
be grateful for it.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, again, hopefully there's some stuff like that are built in and sort of reinforced, and hopefully there's a little bit of genetic component to that too. And
yeah, for sure. That'd be hard for me to hold a Nintendo Switch. I'd want to play it more than them, I think.
Well, so I did play. I was a big Zelda fan growing up, so him and I played Breath of the Wild together.
Nice.
Do
you play with your son now?
Not a ton.
Yeah.
Not a ton.
That's important though. Like, because my son, when I buy him stuff, I'm like, you better take care of that thing. And it's those are just words. You make them buy something, and it's like, okay, that thing's cleaned off. It's put in a safe spot.
He's got $800 upstairs in his sock.
Yeah, I need to make him spend more. That's a good point though, because he's throwing his Switch around. He throws his laptop around, stuff that was bought for him, versus something like, okay, I just spent my $100.
That's in perspective. Yeah.
100%. That's a good point. Got to take that home with me.
I want to dive into, so we talked to high school jobs, stuff like that. Let's dive into Michigan now, University of Michigan, to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was just a raving, obsessed Michigan fan from a pretty early age. Again, I don't know why, but I just was always...
Football, basketball, everything?
Yeah, football and basketball for sure.
Yeah.
I've been to... I think one of my buddies took me to my first ever game. I was probably about 12 or so. You're in a stadium of 110,000 people, like everyone's sort of yelling. It's just an incredible experience. And so, I don't know, man, I was always hooked. It was just always something in me. I was like, yeah, I just want to go there. So it was a huge goal of mine. I accomplished it. I just, remember walking into school like the next day, knowing I got accepted. I was like, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went there as a freshman and started college when I was 17 years old, and man, I loved it. But it's from a small town,
right?
So I always had this, sense of, I don't know, like, do I deserve to be here?
Right.
So there's always a little bit of that, but
what's that called? There's like a syndrome they call it when you think you're achieving something better than you actually are. There's a term for that.
Imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because just to put it in perspective, my roommate, a bunch of all these other people that, were in all my classes are coming from, these like big high schools, these big schools in, sort of the greater Detroit metro area, all these like affluent neighborhoods. Like we just didn't have any of that stuff.
Right.
They like had all these AP classes. I think we had 2 AP classes.
Yeah.
in total at my high school. So yeah, it was just always this feeling of like, oh man, do I really deserve to be here? Yeah, definitely a little imposter syndrome.
Makes sense.
Did you understand what a big city was? Like, I know some people are like coming from 2,000-3,000 person towns and they're like, okay, this is weird. Like, I don't know, you don't know everyone at University of Michigan. Did you understand that growing up? Like what a big city was, or was it like, you never really experienced that?
Didn't really experience it a whole lot. Yeah, no, I definitely didn't. And, you know, we'll probably talk about this a little bit, but so I went from Ann Arbor to graduated and moved out to New York City.
I heard you mention that. Yeah.
First time I ever went there was to interview. And I was just like, oh, holy shit.
Different.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. See a lot in New York too, I'm sure. Some of the things you're seeing on the streets there just
Saw a lot. So myself and Mike, we lived on 116th Street, not too far from, you know, Columbia's campus up there. But when you've never been there before, you've never really been to a big city like that. Like, you know, your first experience is just 116th Street up there. This is 2009. Yeah, you know, it's
And what job was that for?
personal trainer.
That was personal trainer up there.
Yep. So we worked. I mean, we had to take the subway all the way down, but yeah, it was an experience.
So you graduated college and got straight into it.
Yep.
And you knew you were going to get straight into it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I was always into fitness. I knew that, you know, I wasn't good enough to like compete athletically at Michigan.
Right.
Actually, remember going and talking to the track coach, and I was like, "Hey, I'd like to walk on." And this is, you know, there's a lot of Title IX stuff, so they have really small numbers, and they can't just kind of let everyone on. And I told him my times, and he was just like, "Huh." He was like, "You're going to have a really hard time." I was like, "Oh, thanks." So I sort of gave up.
But that's top tier too. I mean, you're talking about University of Michigan.
Oh, and they had a very good mid-distance program at the time, as in there were people, I think Kevin Sullivan and Nate Brannon, two of the names off the top of my head, like they competed at the Olympics.
Top, yeah.
Yes. Like
Yeah,
the best.
I believe it.
Some of the best in the world. Yeah.
It's crazy. So you went in, got your degree, went to New York, and you said you roomed with Mike, correct?
Yeah, we lived for the first month or two. I want to say we slept on air mattresses, I believe. And then when we finally did get an apartment, so this is a funny story. For the first year we lived in New York, we technically had a 1-bedroom apartment, but they have, you know, you can put up one of those little like, wall dividers. So it's 1 bedroom plus a home office, whatever. And yeah, this is just kind of how unique Mike is. He slept on the couch. So like I actually had the bedroom. It was just like basically a mattress on the floor. That's all it was. Then we had a third roommate who had, you know, the other room that was kind of walled off.
And Mike slept on the couch.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
At Michigan.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, he went to Michigan too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where we met, in the weight room at Michigan, student weight room.
And what year was that?
2007.
To give people perspective, Mike Israetel is his partner, so I just want to
Co-founder.
Co-founder. And they went 2000. When did you guys start it? RP.
2011, 2012.
2011. You founded it. Okay, so you met at Michigan. You know, we're good friends there, I assume.
Yeah, so he was squatting like 405 in the student weight room, which is unheard of. No one does that. All, you know, ass to grass all the way down. I'm just like, what's going on here? This is like a 5'6", 220 stocky guy. He saw me lifting. You know, he convinced me he had started the Michigan Powerlifting Club. He's like, hey, you should join. We're doing this competition in a couple months. Did that. Again, like I'm used to sports, track, competing, and didn't have that outlet in college. And so that was a way to funnel that sort of competitive drive into lifting pursuits. And yeah, I was immediately hooked and started training with him, you know, right after that. And that was sort of, you know, really like the true origins of RP, because that's really where it all started. Like it wasn't officially started for a couple years after that, but that's really where it started.
That's cool. I didn't know all that. And what's your guys' relationship now?
Yeah, he's one of my best friends in the entire world.
Got it.
Yeah.
Was he in your wedding and stuff?
I got married at City Hall in New York City.
Oh, there you go.
So
yeah, I got you.
No one was really in the wedding.
Yeah.
So was this, talk about like your entrepreneur bug. Like, was it ever that, or was it just fitness? Like fitness, you wanted to help people with that? Cause I think there is different, like you obviously had a passion for it. But what about the entrepreneur side of it?
Yeah. So funny enough, there was an internship, I think my freshman year at Michigan, and looking back, it was pretty selective. I didn't know that, but I ended up making it all the way through, and it was to run a college painting company. And all these other kids are doing it in Metro Detroit area. I'm doing it back home. I'm recruiting some of my friends from high school, probably not doing it ideally. My buddy that I just took to the Lions game with me was one of the guys that I had to help paint that summer. And so we joke back as like that almost stopped us from being friends because him and I working together. But I don't know, man. There was something cool about it. So I ran that and did pretty well. I think that like that summer alone, I did about $50K in revenue.
Nice.
And I helped paint, so I had pretty good margins. That basically paid for my sophomore year at Michigan.
Wow.
On that. And so
It's a lot of money for a summer.
accidental entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
really? Because like I had no plans of like, oh yeah, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Like no, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But that just kind of fell in my lap. And, I like the idea of being able to kind of, do stuff on your own. If you're the business owner, right? Like you get back what you put into it. So if you work your ass off, you're probably going to do okay. If you don't, well, you're probably not going to do too well. So there's maybe an early glimpse of that. But even when we were personal trainers, we really had no illusion of like, we want to start our own company. It's just like, we really love fitness. How can we help people? And, we were into bodybuilding too. So it's like, now we can essentially, fitness is our life 24/7. It's what we do. We help people work out and train essentially all day long. We have breaks during the day. That's when we can work out ourselves.
Right.
When you're 21 living in New York City, like that seems like a pretty cool
Lifestyle.
thing to do. Yeah, exactly.
Some people look at it like being the CEO of a company like RP Strength or like anything like this is a it's a fitness company, but you're a CEO. Like there's so much business around it. And like people build a business around their passion, thinking their passion is going to be, it's all that. Like, how do you separate that? Do you try to only do the things that you really love in the business? Or because I'm sure you love the business parts of the business, not just the fitness parts. But how do you kind of separate that? Because your passion is fitness, but you're running a big company for sure. And there's so much else that goes into that.
Yeah. It's sort of like the accidental entrepreneurship of when you start, you just have to do everything. And so, it took a while. It was also one of these things where I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And so like, I have to go try to learn a bunch of stuff too. Like, how do I learn about leadership? Like, what does real leadership sort of look like? I don't know. And you just go from doing everything to like, then you started hiring people, they started doing work, and you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, they're actually like better at this stuff than I was. Because instead of me trying to do 10 things, well, now I can hire someone that's like pretty good at this. And so like there was a little bit of that going on early on. And, now it's to the point where we've got such a good team around us that, it's like anything that I used to be good at, we now have people that are better at it than me, which I guess is kind of ideal.
Yeah.
But it's a really hard sort of mental switch because you go from literally doing everything to now have to sort of pass it off and let other people do it. It's a really interesting thing. And so now I'm like, I'm not as hands-on. I'm not like doing everything anymore. It's really weird. It took me, I'm still kind of in my own head struggling with kind of like, I need to do something, right? Like, I'm like, they're better at it than I am. So I'm like, okay, well, now I need to do other stuff. But yeah, it's been an interesting transition for sure.
I think that's a big like thing for CEOs in general. Like, okay, yeah, I gotta let the people do what they're good at. You hired them for a reason. Yeah. Every single person on your team you hired for a reason. Was like growing up, like you made $50,000 in a summer or $50,000 of sales. Like just you don't just run into that. Was it ever money driven with getting in the business, or was it more so like driven to freedom and like the what you can do, like being able to come here and do a podcast? What kind of drove you?
It was not money focused because Mike and I joke about it. When we think back to when we started doing this, Mike was a professor, and I didn't know money growing up. Like you made $100,000 a year, like that's a shitload of money where I'm from. And so like we definitely didn't do it for that. It was just like, no, we love fitness is what we want to do. And we just thought, if we could, be coaches, make $100K a year, like we'd think that was pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. And so like we just didn't know any better. So, the summer thing, it was $50K total sales. I want to say maybe like the amount that I kept that paid for essentially my sophomore year of college admission was closer to like 15.
Mm-hmm.
Still great for a summer though.
Oh my God. Amazing. Absolutely. No.
And this was what, 2000,
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Like
yeah.
That.
Money was different back then than it is now too.
That's a lot of money, man,
yeah.
for a college kid. No, absolutely. But it's not like I was going out and spending it on stuff. I was like, this is going to pay for school. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to take out as much loans.
Right. I was just going to say, you talked about loans. Did you take out a lot of loans for that or have any issues? I know a lot of people.
For college, yeah. RP started with, we had laptops and internet. That's all it took to get started. So we didn't have a ton of startup costs. So, a little bit different than, having to have tangible goods and products and all that. So, we've kind of always been profitable since day one because we already had laptops and, internets.
That's what's so cool about a business like that too. You can start it. There's some businesses take a lot of capital to get in and some take very, very little. The first businesses I started took, really nothing besides a couple advertisements to try to get people on there. Let's dive into your startup and just like where it first started and what your guys' vision was when you first started versus where you were then.
Yeah, the vision was we thought that we had a pretty good idea. Mike's sort of the mastermind behind it all because he had it at the time. He had his master's degree in strength and conditioning from Appalachian State. He had not gone back to get his PhD yet, but we were training at a bunch of bodybuilding gyms in New York City. And we just kind of saw like what other people were doing, even though that they were better, more advanced than us. We just were like, it seems not ideal. And what we wanted to do was combine, evidence-based practices in fitness, but also be able to walk the walk as well. Because if you're just one or the other, right? Like you're a book nerd or a meathead, it's easy to kind of critique the other one. But when you combine both, it's really hard to kind of talk trash to those people.
Right.
Like if you look like an athlete, but you also know the best approaches, it's probably going to lead to better outcomes. And so that was really like what we wanted RP to be. Like Renaissance comes from that.
Right.
We wanted it to be the rebirth of like evidence-based practices into fitness. Also, Rentec, the hedge fund in Long Island, instead of hiring like day traders and all that stuff, like they had mathematicians. Jim Simons, the Medallion Fund, they like crushed they had like 30% returns for like several decades. Like they just, it was when Mike and I were training people in New York City. So, we're working with like hedge fund people, so like the wealthiest people in the world. They would always kind of refer to Rentec, Renaissance Technologies. Yeah. And it's like, that was a little bit of how we came up with the name as well.
Got it. And you guys, is just you two operating out of your guys' apartment?
Yeah.
Was this one-on-one you were doing at this point?
So Mike was he was down in Tennessee. So he had started his PhD programs. We were referring people back and forth because I was still in New York training people in person. And, eventually we were just like, hey, why don't we just like create a business together? And so, and it was all online. Yeah, it's all online.
Okay.
Because Mike was coaching people online. He's like, I just can't keep up. And he's like, this stuff. Besides him, like no one knows this stuff better than you. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Like I can help start coaching people too. And so, we did it all online. And like I said, it started with a laptop and internet. That's all it took.
And what was the product at that point exactly? What was someone getting?
One-on-one coaching. We would send people Excel spreadsheets.
And what year was this exactly again? I know I just asked.
Let's call it 2011.
Okay. So spreadsheets. That's when it wasn't 2011, but our brother probably got in.
I remember typing into the spreadsheets probably 10 years ago at least.
Yeah.
I was typing into the spreadsheets. It was telling me how much weight to do, how much close to my max reps I should do.
That's how we get guests on here. I look at the products and things that I use and respect highly. And then we were like, okay, let's try to get the founder and the vision behind it on. And that's how it came up. We've been using yours for a really long time.
In this industry, and you can talk more on it, Nick, this industry, it's so easy to bullshit and like talk about shit you're not doing, like you said, or just try to be a meathead and like not being honest or truthful. And like, it sounds easier than it is, I think, to do both sides of it, like very evidence-based and also like walk the walk. And so few people have struggled to like follow. Like you still see social media and it's all with bullshit, like meatheads that are just juicing nonstop. And that's how they got where they are. No evidence-based, they just push as much weight as much as you can and you're going to get where you are. Like, and it hasn't changed. Like you guys see your success. Like I don't think it's changed much. Can you talk about that? Like from the start, you guys were so hyper focused, I think, on like actually helping people.
Yeah. There's probably something to be said for just like some common sense business practices too that, to me, I always thought it was common sense, but like to some people it's not. Like you respond to people. When people pay you money, like you respond to them. Or people have customer service inquiries, like you respond to them quickly. Like this stuff just seems basic. Not everyone does that. And so when we started in the online coaching space, there weren't a ton of people. It definitely was not very much in the evidence-based space. I think now here we are, let's call it a decade plus later. I think the evidence-based sector, if we want to call it, has grown a ton. I'd like to think maybe we were able to help with that. You know, you have also other people, really early folks like John Meadows, Lane Norton. They were very early sort of pioneers of this too. So ton of credit to them as well. But I think it's a lot different now than it was then. And, you know, now there's so many online coaches too that it's probably a little bit harder to stand out. So we probably were a little early on in like some of the social media. I remember being pretty early on Instagram, which is huge for us. There's maybe a little bit of element of luck there, I suppose, just being earlier. But
Yeah, I want to talk about that content, Dan, because
that drives your business.
yeah, 100%. It drives so much today. Like, do you remember that conversation with Mike, or was there a conversation? It's like, let's just start posting and talking. I haven't seen the early 15 years ago content or whatever that looked like. But was that like a focus of it? Like this, we need to get the word out. This is how we're going to grow.
yeah, so there's probably 3 stages actually. So the first one was all Facebook, like when we started, which is like, all right, clients send us before and after pictures or write up something nice about us. We post it
Facebook
up.
post, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Back in the day, this is
yeah.
what Facebook
Yeah,
was
100%.
the thing. You can't do it now, but you would be seen by a lot of people. And so we just worked off of word of mouth, because you post that, people are like, oh, holy shit, like what did Johnny do to get in shape?
Right.
Johnny, tell me more. And he'd be like, oh, check these guys out. You know, that's how it worked largely. And then like Mike and I sort of filled up and we're like, we got to bring on other coaches. And so we bring on other coaches. They were mostly people that Mike was going to school with, because if you can recruit other people that are going to school for PhD, well, one, you know, they're going to be smart, hard workers, and they're into fitness. Like they walk the walk, talk the talk. So that worked out great. And then it shifted a little bit into Instagram. And with, you know, our medium fitness before and afters, you know, you post those, they did really well. And what's crazy is I ran our Instagram page for, you know, probably the first decade or so, and 90% of the content that we used was like other people's content. We just repost it. And I was like, this is kind of cool, because like I'm not that creative. I can't come up with that much stuff. And so we just kept reposting it. And then we sort of figured out that, hey, like if we can get sort of other accounts with decent followers to like post us, tag about us, you know, that's how we got into some of like the influencer affiliate marketing stuff. So that was sort of phase 2 Instagram. And again, like things changed. So now like you can't really use it before and afters. Dog shit on Instagram. Like they've basically blocked them. I don't know why, but again, you just have to adapt. Facebook died. Instagram, okay, radical shift. And then COVID year, we started leaning into YouTube, because like we had all this content behind a paywall. We're like, let's just make this free. Because COVID was here, we're like, let's just start getting it out. And yeah, that was phase 3. And you know, we started with probably like we had about 40K subscribers back in 2020 when we really started leaning into YouTube. And it took until about 2023 for that to really accelerate.
Wow, that's cool. And just adjusting with the content, and it's something that YouTube's awesome. Like YouTube, you can reach so many people, and YouTube is going to give you credit to the quality of content and the quality, the value you give to the people.
It just seems to be the best. It shows the people what they want when they want to see it. Like
it's algorithm. Like what I get pushed, I'm like, okay, my goodness. Like I just watched 3 other videos just like this, and it's pushing me the 4th video. It's just very, very algorithm based, obviously.
And they also have a better monetization.
Yeah.
Way to go about it, because they heavily incentivize the influencers that create it. Like you can make money on that. You don't make money off of Facebook and Instagram posting on them. Like you have to have brand deals to go with it.
Right.
And so it's like YouTube is the top tier. Then it's probably like Instagram, and then probably like TikTok, but I don't know. TikTok's still around for now, I guess.
Yeah, it's around. It's around at this moment. But Twitter, you can monetize.
You can't download the app, I don't think, but you can.
Oh, really? I didn't know
you can't download it, but you can use it if you have it.
Interesting. Okay. I'm
That's
sure like YouTube monetization's a big part of your guys' business now in terms of like the amount of views you're getting. Obviously, it's not like the biggest part, but it definitely it adds up.
Is that your biggest following on YouTube? Like in terms of just where people come from?
Yep.
Yeah, it's same for us. But yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we have really professionalized our YouTube operations. We've got, a team of not all full time, but something like probably 6 to 8 people that are heavily involved in YouTube. Like it's a full-time production. Scott, the video guy that's mentioned frequently on all of the videos that Mike sort of talks to back and forth. Yeah, he runs the show. He's phenomenal, man. He's awesome. It's one of those things where you hope to hire people that are better than you, and Scott's the man.
Yeah.
So like our YouTube, credit to our whole YouTube team, man. They've really honed in. They've really dialed in things, and it's become a very professionally run operation now.
And when you've seen this success so far that you're seeing, like you said, 2023, you guys took off. 2020 still sounds like you had good success then, but you really said you took off in 2023 what I guess what I want to ask is like, what keeps driving you to go? Because you could kind of sit and play relaxed a little bit and do what you're doing, but it seems like you're trying to grow and make it big, something big. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Why would you want to sit still?
It's the same reason he's sitting here, I think, and like still doing the fitness thing. Like we're gonna get a workout in after
we're
that.
working out right after that.
Keep attacking it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's absolutely 100% something to the fitness mindset of like, you never reach an endpoint in fitness.
It's an infinite game.
Exactly. You can always get another rep. You can get a little bit stronger. You can get a little bit leaner, whatever. It's like the same approach. And not that we only recruit people that are into fitness, but like a lot of people that work for RP are also into fitness. Like they're attracted to the RP just because like there's something cool
cultural.
going on.
Yeah.
There's something to that, man. Like,
Yeah.
what would I do if I wasn't trying to, like, I don't know what I would be doing. I would have to do something.
Yeah.
It's like the idea of retiring. I'm just like,
That's how I feel too.
I don't want to retire. No.
And it's never been about money for you. That's the thing.
It definitely wasn't at the beginning.
You can't say you don't like it though.
Yeah.
You know, no one doesn't like money, right? It's absolutely part of the freedom of if you make a decent amount of money, you just have a lot more options.
100%.
And like, that's a super cool part of it. But I will say in like the early years, like once you start being successful, it took a while for me to flip the switch where I didn't quite make this connection yet. It took me a few years to connect it. I was like, you have to start with helping people first, like giving. That's actually how you get the more rewards on the end versus the other way of like, oh, how do I just like make as much money as possible? Like that's the wrong approach because that's more short-sighted. And if you take the longer term view of things, it's like, no, I'm just here to help people. That's why we give away so much content. Like we've never been steered wrong when we've given stuff away. It's always come back to help us in some form. And it's like, it's a little bit more of a long-term approach, but that's where it sort of starts. And I just remember thinking about that one day. I was like, I was like, well, most people approach it completely backwards. It's like, but it takes patience in order to do that. Because like I said, we started in 2020, but we really didn't see the payoff for a couple of years. Now, again, we had other channels that were doing well. There's definitely something to that as well, where you just have to kind of approach it from that mindset of like, well, we're just going to help a bunch of people, and that's going to end up coming back to us in some way, shape, or form.
It's easier said than done. I think a lot of people look at it backwards, like let's make some money that'll help some people. And it doesn't work. Helping people, like the richest people in the world, help people. And I think building that company, like just the free content, like we give away a ton of free content, but it always comes back. Like people want to spend their money on people that have helped them. Like you help someone with a YouTube video for free. Maybe they're not going to buy your product right away. 6 months down the line, they are in a position where they can, absolutely.
But they also think like if you're giving this much free value, what's behind the doors?
100%.
Too. So there's that philosophy
psychological.
Too.
Whether it's good karma, it's good juju, or just the principle of reciprocity, it's probably more the latter there. But yeah, man, like if you help people, like we see this all the time in YouTube comments, social media comments. They're just like, holy shit, I lost 50 to 100 pounds. I didn't even have to buy anything from RP. Like, I just want to support you guys in some way. Well, one, they're still supporting us from watching the YouTube channel because we do monetize.
Right.
Again, that's not our like main source of revenue. We just sort of treat that as like, well, now we just have more money to go spend on marketing stuff. Like, just put it back in.
Do you do a lot of that paid ad stuff?
Yeah.
Do you? What percentage you think from like organic to the paid side?
That is the several $1 million question.
Yeah.
It's hard to track when you have all these different sources.
No, it is, man. And, we have, people in charge of our marketing that like, sometimes it's just really hard to, especially with some of the changes to Apple over the last couple of years and the privacy policies and all that, it's more and more complicated trying to decipher some of that, but
it's very hard because they both all do the same too. It's like they're watching the free content, they're going here, they're going there, and it's hard to figure out.
Apple's made things tough. Like Apple doesn't track Gmail now as far as like opens on Gmail. Apple would make it extremely difficult to understand where people are actually coming from. Which I mean, you keep doing what you're doing and you're like growing, like keep on putting the content out, everything like that. And like, yeah, maybe you can't attribute every single dollar where it comes from. But overall, I think understanding the big picture. Let's get in, Dan, to the fitness industry as a whole right now. Because I think I was talking to my wife about it last night, kind of not really preparing for this, just talking to her about the industry. And like, I feel like 18 to 24-year-olds, men especially, are like susceptible to like putting bad shit in their body, everything like that. And just like, they get so into like the Instagram people, the people that get jacked in 2 months or something like that. Talk about the industry as a whole, where it's come from as to where it is now.
So when we first got into it, I think there was just a lot of people that just did a bunch of random shit.
Yeah.
And they didn't really know why, but like, you know, hey, it's hard to argue with someone that's really big and really jacked, right? Like if that's what you're trying to get to, it's really hard to, you know, again, if you can't walk the walk and talk the talk, it's really hard to go against that person. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Well, clearly they do because they got to where they are. But it's like, can you explain why it is? And can you replicate those results with other people? Because to me, it's almost like I would rather take someone that like maybe doesn't have great genetics and was able to get some decent results because they probably really know what to do. It would be like going to LeBron James and be like, LeBron, how are you so athletic? And he's like, I don't know. I just like woke up.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I don't know how much you can learn from that. But you want to dive into like basketball strategy, I'm sure as shit, he can probably tell you a lot of cool stuff. But over the years, I think there has been a shift to more and more evidence-based practices, which I think is cool all the way around. Again, hopefully, I think we probably helped pave that way. Like I remember when we first got it into some like CrossFit nutrition, everything was paleo. Like no one talks about paleo anymore. You ever hear anyone talk about paleo? No. Because we came into CrossFit and we're like, hey guys, like you don't have to just eat sweet potatoes and meat.
What is paleo?
Lots of meat. Again, there's different definitions, but think of very like how did paleo cavemen eat way back in the day?
Yeah. Can they eat like vegetables and stuff or fruits?
I think so. You can't really eat any like processed foods or anything like that. So like when it comes to eating carbohydrates, you basically only had fruit and sweet potatoes. Like if you're a CrossFit athlete, you're training 4 or 5 hours a day, that doesn't work unless you really freaking like sweet potatoes. And so we came in and we're like, hey, like you can actually maybe drink some sports drink. You can have some maybe cereal after training really hard. We just kind of opened up people's eyes. People are like, what? And so it's just, again, you just prove it. So when we first started, people are like, no, this doesn't work. These guys are full of it. A couple years later, we got, you know, thousands of transformations. We're working with some of the best athletes in the world. People are like, oh, okay. It turns out it does work. So again, it's just like this gradual shift to now people are more open-minded, I think, to more evidence-based stuff.
What's your normal avatar that comes in as a client? Age, everything like that. Overall goal that they're coming in with.
Yeah, well, so I mean, nowadays I would best describe it if we want to look at like the YouTube demographic, younger men on average. Let's call it like, if it's on the real younger side, they're probably just watching the content. They're probably not buying our stuff, which is great. That's fine. No worries. Let's call it 24 to 35. Men that just want to get jacked.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
And is it nutrition based as well? As far as I've done the application with the workouts, do you guys provide nutrition based stuff like tracking and everything like that?
Yep. So we have a diet app. So
It's two different apps.
Okay. I haven't seen that one.
Yep. It's 2 different apps. So when we first came up, we were much more known for nutrition. And so that's like, we went from having diet templates to having a diet app. So then we learned a lot about the app for having it out for, let's call it 4 years before we came out with the Hypertrophy app. So when we launched the Hypertrophy app, I would argue it was already better than the diet app from day one because we had learned so much about sort of what people want and they just want to be able to, they like our recommendations, sure, but there's also tons of times where they want to switch something around. So we built the Hypertrophy app to be much more flexible so people could come in and sort of change things because our diet app's a little bit more rigid currently.
Yeah. Do you guys talk much about like 25 to 35, they want to get jacked. Then you have like 35 to 55, like they don't want to die. Like overall well-being and health other than just the macro aspect. Do you guys touch much on that or like what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I would almost phrase it in a way of like, yes, as you get older, you're more concerned with health and longevity. Absolutely. But I would argue that one of the best ways to have better health and longevity is to have a more aesthetically pleasing physique. Because if you are leaner, on average, you're going to have healthier, lab markers, all this stuff. And so it's almost, you're going to hear a lot of people say that, yeah, I really want to be healthy. And you really start kind of poking around and asking some questions. It's like, no, they want to look better. But the two go together very, very well. So
That's
you start
interesting.
looking better. You want to be more jacked. You want to be more lean. Great. Like there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times people, say they're older, right? 40-year-old woman, 40-year-old male. They're like, okay, especially on the female side, they're not going to maybe come out and say like, I just want to look really good. They're like, yeah, I want to be like healthy. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, tell me more about that. You peel the onion back a little bit. It's like, oh, okay. You just want to look good. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Guys might be a little more open with that. And they're just like, yeah, like I want to get jacked. You're like, cool. Like we're the best in the world at that. We can help you. Awesome. So it's almost like a Trojan horse sort of thing. Kind of like, yeah, health. You kind of bring this in. You're like, oh, nope. It's actually the other way around. And so the two really go together. Actually, I think I said that wrong. Whereas if you just lean into, I don't know, I guess you could argue it both ways, but it's like, we know people want to look better. There's nothing wrong with that, whether or not they'll say that up front or not. But like, if you look better, you also get better health outcomes, almost certainly. So it's like, let's just lean into that. Just go after better, try to look better.
And there's so much science that goes behind like muscle mass and longevity.
Strength, yeah.
Just women being able to stand up from the toilet when you're 80 years old. Like all that
Balance,
stuff,
everything.
100%. Like not falling when you're 80 years old, just walking or falling and then not being able to get back up.
If you can do a set of 10 like body weight squats, like you're not going to have trouble getting around.
It's true.
And I think it's like, are we starting to see, like, I don't know when men started, men have lifted for a while, I guess, but women, like we don't have an older generation of women who have worked out like since they were 20, 30 years old.
In terms of lifting.
Yeah, in terms of lifting. And there's so many like joint issues of older women today. Our grandmas had a lot of issues with just falling and balance and everything like that. She's 93 or granted or something around there. But like, what do you think that's going to do for the women side? I think is really interesting because like we don't have an older generation of women who have worked out for muscle. Correct. So like, I'm sure that's going to be a big factor, like as they're growing up.
Quality of life will get better for tons of people if
Yeah.
they stay active and they keep lifting. Like everyone should lift. It's as simple as that because there's just so many health benefits.
Yeah.
Quality of life, quantity of life in terms of extending longevity. Like there's just, it goes back to why do we keep doing what we're doing? And it's like, why would you not want to lift? Like why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really come up with any reasons other than like you just don't like it. But well, shoot, that seems a bit short-sighted.
What's your opinion on like because like a lot of bodybuilders and strength trainers, and there's that side, and then there's like the mobility side where people are doing more functional stuff. What's your opinion on the two, or how do you treat that to keep your mobility while you're building strength?
So lift weights with full range of motion and sort of progressively add weights to that over time. And if you can, do all the lifts through a full range of motion, like you're probably not going to have very many mobility issues. So if you can do, a deep squat all the way down, you're not, now, again, you might not start there. You kind of start with where you're at, then you just sort of work on progressively getting a little bit better. And if you do that, if you can go through that full range of motion, you're going to be fine on the mobility angle. Like progressive overload through full range of motion via lifting weights, it's a win-win.
And what's your opinion on someone so they can't squat all the way down? Do they still go heavy? Do they start light? Are they still going to failure to build the muscle?
So you always start relatively light. You have to meet people where they're at. You don't take people, if someone walking off the street, it's never done anything lifting related. You don't have them start snatching and all this stuff. It's like you meet people where they're at. You start them with the very simple basic stuff. So for someone that's walking in, never done it before, it might be like squatting onto a box or a bench.
Yeah.
Just get them used to that. And over time, you go, okay, well, like now we're going to lower that by an inch or two. And so now they're building more and more range of motion. You just kind of keep doing that until they build up some strength. And then all of a sudden, like they're doing bodyweight squats on their own. And then it's like, okay, now they can do a set of 10. Cool. Now you start adding a little bit of weight. Doesn't have to be a ton, 5-pound dumbbells, let's say. Again, it's just like, it's that idea of progressive overload. It's like if someone wants to start running, they're probably not start by running 40, 50 miles a week. That's stupid. They're going to get hurt. Their feet, shins, whatever. Like they're going to be in for a bad time. But it's like, okay, cool. Start by walking a couple miles a day. Great. Like most people can do that. It's like now they get there. Cool. Now it's like maybe jog half mile, jog a mile, something like that. So it's just this progressive buildup. It's not, it's you don't want the all or nothing mentality. Just slowly and gradually ease into things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think a lot of people, that's why a lot of people start and then quit. Like they just like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Why do people quit?
Like, how do you make this a lifestyle? Like that's what, like, some of my friends will do it and they'll go to the gym for 6 weeks, talk about their nutrition. And then like, okay, they don't talk about it. And it's not always just like New Year's resolutions. It's just like making it a lifestyle is a different thing than just doing it for 4 weeks.
I think there's maybe a couple reasons. So one, results take a while, but people want it immediately.
Very long time.
And so they're like, okay, I have not been training since high school. I'm now 34 years old, so I haven't really been working out in 16 years. And they're like, I've gained 30 pounds, right? So I got a little bit of a belly. And they're like, but now I'm fucking motivated, bro. Like, let's get after it. And then they get in, they dive in, they literally go from nothing to trying to be all in. It's like you're setting yourself up for failure because it's just, you're probably going to get hurt from doing too much too soon. Or like, there's just almost nobody can go from very little to so much, right? And changing so many things. Like, it's just a recipe for failure. So the better approach is just to start by doing a little bit. But again, that requires patience and requires more of a long-term mindset, which is nobody fucking wants to do because it's hard.
That's another problem with raising kids. You can skip ads now on all these platforms. Like nothing is, you don't have to wait for anything. And I think about that all the time when I'm like, my daughter's like, skip the ad. Like, you got to wait 5 seconds to skip this YouTube ad, Lucy. Like, calm down. Like, she's like, it's like, it's literally like skip ad after 5 seconds of you're watching a YouTube video. And like, there's no patience. And people try to get the results fast. Yeah. Or they can kick ass for a week or something, lifting, and then they just fall off so fast. Or they get some results, and then you have the plateau 4 or 6 weeks in, and then they quit. Like, again, like just the lifestyle aspect it's just a different mind. It's really tough. Like, who do you see that's successful? Just people that take it, like they look at like what 2 years down the line, or like, is it just a bigger picture thing when they get started?
And one of my favorite mantras is consistency over perfection.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, just like you said, people, they go for that like short-term perfection, all in crazy high intensity. But you just can't keep up crazy high intensity for a very long time. So it's the gradual part, because if you go from doing nothing to all this stuff, you'll be good for a couple of weeks. And then it's like almost nobody can sustain that. So it's like, just be more gradual. It just takes, again, it takes a patience. I don't have any better way to say it. It's just really hard for people to sort of view that, because they're like, well, yeah, like I haven't been doing anything for 10 years, but like now I'm kind of motivated and inspired. So it's time to make up for 10 years of not doing anything. It's like respect from wanting to do something to make a change, but it's really hard to tell someone who's really motivated and inspired to do less, right?
Yeah.
How do you tell them to do less?
Yeah.
It's hard.
The people who fall off, is it, because it'll happen to me sometimes when you work out hard 5, 6 weeks and like, okay, I take 2 days off, then you beat yourself up. And I think it like spirals almost, like when people start beating themselves up, like just get back to it. Like, you can't make up what you just missed. You can't make up the last 10 years of not working out. You can't make up the last 3 days of not working out, but you not working out another day is just going to set you farther behind, opposed to like so many people in business we talk about with our students, like trying to make up ground from stuff they missed. Don't try to make up ground. Just like, let's just start that consistency again.
Together, yeah.
Opposed to like falling off. And I think just getting to the gym every day, or not every day, 4 days a week. Like, it doesn't matter what you do in there, just get something done.
Yeah. No. You do the little things. So it's like, all right, if you're trying to lift weights 3 or 4 times a week, awesome. But you shouldn't feel bad about not lifting those other 3-4 days of the week as well. Go for a walk. Take your dog for a walk. Take your kids for a walk. Push them in the stroller. Like, all that is contributing to some better outcomes. But again, it's just hard for people to sort of wrap their minds around it, because like they feel like they need to be doing more.
Yeah.
It's like, well, sort of instead of 2 steps or 3 steps forward, 1 step back, it's like that step back is not really a step back. It's more of a step to the side. It's like 3 steps forward, take a step to the side, then keep going forward again. Like it's just a tricky thing to get people to grasp that concept of.
What's next for RP, as far as like, you guys have built an amazing brand, like
the long-term vision.
Like, you hear the name and hear about people using it all over, like everywhere you go, every gym, there's probably someone using your guys' workouts or your guys' nutrition. Like what's next for you guys? Or is it just keep on doing what you're doing, stick to that consistency?
It's a lot of the latter there of just keep doing what we're doing. But the cool part of when you get into software development is just you can, I don't want to say easily because that would not be the right way to phrase it because software is very hard, but you can have a lot of continual sort of iterations, more and more app updates, hearing what people want. So people are like, hey, like it's really cool to build one workout program in your app, but like, how do I repeat that a second time? Well, we just came out with functionality where like now you can click twice and like it'll basically replicate that for you, but it will also come with the weights sort of preloaded for your next workout program. So you don't have to go in and sort of reprogram everything. It's like, well, it's just part of the feedback. You get the feedback, put it in, get something new out there, see what people like, what they don't like about it, and just keep doing that. It's just a continually iterative process.
The ease of like doing, I think a lot of people, like you said, go in the gym and just don't know what to do. So like the ease of using your app and like it tells you what you're going to do. It's going to know your past also. Like once you do it a few times, like
makes it easy.
Suggest weights, suggest reps, everything like that. Obviously it's not going to be exact every time and you can make adjustments. But like the ease of like, you don't have to think about it. This is what you're doing today. Get in, hit it. It's not 10 sets of things like some people try to do. Like get 2-3 working sets in and move on with your day. You don't have to think about what machine you're doing next. Just make it happen.
Well, so when you guys asked about the avatar earlier, so it's like you start to look at the pain points and it's people go into the gym, but they feel a little overwhelmed because they don't know what to do, especially guys that want to get more jacked. There's so much information and misinformation out there. So what we wanted to do is just provide the blueprint. Well, it's like you don't have to think about it. It's sort of all pre-programmed in for you. So now you go from being unsure, probably a little hesitant from walking in the gym to now you're like, now you feel very confident, you feel assured, like you know that you're going to be doing the stuff that's going to get you the best results. So it's like, you just become a lot more confident person when you walk in the gym and you're like, hell yeah, like I know what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
100%.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can people find more about RP Strength, what it can do for them? Where can people find you, Nick?
Number one spot would be go to YouTube, search Renaissance Periodization. It's a really long name, but if you just probably type in RP like Dr. Mike, it's going to come up. And yeah, the YouTube channel is really cranking it. We put out tons and tons of content. Or you can just go to RP Strength on Instagram. That's probably a great spot. You'll see some of the clips from the YouTube page there. But you know, if you have any questions or anything about anything fitness related, go to our YouTube page because we probably got a video on that topic. Just search for it on YouTube.
Yeah, you guys been at it a long time. You got anything else, Dan?
No. Any last words? Thanks for coming on, man. It's been a blast, though.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. And, it's been great. And keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Awesome. Let's get a lift now.
Hell yeah.
Sounds good, guys.
Awesome. If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. If you guys are listening on Apple or Spotify, share it with a friend. Thank you so much, Nick. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, man.